We ready?
Hello everyone, we'd like to thank you for coming to see Shannon Shea's second live preview for his upcoming class, The Business of Making Monsters. And let's go ahead and cut to Shannon.
Hi everybody, good morning. This is Shannon Shea for the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, and I'm here in Los Angeles. February, what is this today, 4th? 4th at 9 o'clock in the morning, and this is a live preview of the class webinar that we're going to do for 3 weekends. I think it starts this Saturday, February 8th, and then the next weekend, which I think is the 15th. Chris, you're going to have to correct my dates. And then we take a week off and then come back on the 1st, I believe it is. And what this is this is about the business of making monsters. This is, I think, a very important part of any person that's interested in taking their creative hobby or their avocation and making it into their vocation. So a lot of times what happens is that you have incredible sculptors, painters, anything, and they don't know how to monetize their work. Well, I'm going to help you with that, with all the knowledge that I've accrued over my 30 years working in the industry. And because it's a live webinar, I'm going to be able to answer questions, and I'm sure Chris, a little later on in the broadcast today, is going to explain the different levels. But the great thing about this is that I'll be able to talk to you people, you folks out there, and try to help each of you get a better understanding of your particular road into this business. So obviously, we've talked about this and many times, and like I always say, I hate coming off like an old man, but one of the most important parts of getting into this industry is recognizing the landscape and how things have changed, and recognizing recognizing that things have just changed in the motion picture industry. Everyone's feeling it from the very top to the very bottom. And I think it's an exciting time. It's a really exciting time because, and we're going to talk about this a little later on in the broadcast, because smaller independent projects, there's been a lot more of them. There are much more avenues to get your project seen, in terms of, it used to be, we had 3 or 4 network televisions, television stations, and then you had the big studios and then a few independent studios. But now there are so many ways, there's so much content that's needed. Whoops, just hit my glasses there. There's so much content that's needed that it is actually creating more opportunities. So that's something else we're going to talk about as well, is recognizing opportunities, recognizing markets, and how you can get the most out of them. So, but because this is a live broadcast, and the webinar will be live, I will be broadcasting live and talking about a bunch of different topics. I think one of the things I want to stress is that it's a two-way communication. This is not just me, this is not, I know that this course will be available on DVD later, but you're going to get the most out of it by being able to communicate with me directly, and that's my lead into some questions that were asked. We had another live broadcast a couple of weeks ago, and there were some questions that were asked that I asked Chris, our production manager here, to pull up so that I could actually read them and answer them, because that way you'll understand that I am at your service. You talk to me, I'll answer you as best I can, all right? So without any ado, let's see. So Max Brake asks, what role will 3D printing play in the future of creature effects? Well, okay, that's a very good question, because a few weeks ago I was at Staples and I saw that they're now offering kind of low-end 3D printers for consumers. And I would say that, let's be honest, it's part of being a smart business person is recognizing the tools of the trade and how the tools will change. That's why a lot of people have gotten out of practical effects and moved into computer-generated effects, because it is a new tool. 3D printing is a new tool, and I would say that It's not going away, first of all. I think that if anything, this technology is going to get better and much more affordable. I think that we're at the beginning of it. I know that Rick Baker just bought himself a 3D printer, and I think he's playing with it now. And I'm sure, as you all know, that Legacy is big on 3D printing. I've seen some of the work they do, and it's amazing. I would say that 3D printing is like anything else. It's a tool, and I can see how it is really useful when your preferred medium is working in ZBrush or some Maya or a 3D program, and you want to bring a model into a meeting, which is very important, and I'll talk about that in just 2 seconds. So, but as far as it impacting the creature effects business, this is what I think. I think that it is a tool like anything else. I think if you can afford it, and if you think it's going to be cost effective, because that's the other thing too, is when you invest in technology like this, you have to depreciate it. It depreciates over time. And as you also know, it's like when you buy a computer. I always call it the merry-go-round. You buy the laptop, the PowerBook, whatever it is, the tablet, and in 6 months it's obsolete because technology is moving at such a rate. So you just have to understand that if you invest in this tool, that at this point in your career, unless you are a working studio, in which case we should talk. John L's love that. Anyway, yeah, I know. Anyway, you have to figure out how you're going to make it pay for itself, and I can see a lot of ways. But right now, for prototyping, it's great. I don't see it would be good for like mass production. I still think that molding is going to be the best bet if you're going to do anything that's mass produced. I know that there are some services now on the internet that do on-demand type of things. I mean, everything from posters and postcards to mugs, and everything. It's all on demand, and I would see that if you had a 3D printer and it was cost effective to do something that was on demand. I mean, I saw an incredible 3D printer at SIGGRAPH that produced a little like G.I. Joe figure that had a rigid internal skeleton and kind of a soft urethane skin. But I mean, the cost of producing one of those and selling that to depreciate the investment in the machine is something you have to weigh out. So, but anyway, to answer your question, Max, I think that 3D printing is a great tool, and if the company is big enough to be able to use it cost effectively, I think it's terrific. I think I love it. So, Auto VFX says, how does one in the industry deal with getting a job and having it plastered with CG? Are jobs still subsidized even if the majority of the work doesn't hit the screen? That's another good question. So, let's talk about that for 2 seconds. I think, I want to say it was the director Barry Sonnenfeld said something very interesting about the nature of the film industry now. He said, we no longer make movies on set. We collect assets and then make the movie in post-production. And that's really, really important philosophy to kind of think about. I mean, it kind of stings a little bit because you think, well, no, I'm on set, we're making movies, there's actors and there's cameras and there's lights and there's all this stuff and we're making movies. But the truth of the matter is what they're doing is they're collecting shots. And then it all goes into editing now, and it all goes into, so much is done in post-production now with visual effects and color correction and the latitude of what can be done digitally with color correction. It is the truth. We now make movies in post. I was just, 2 minutes ago, I used this analogy with Eric Litoff. I said that shooting on set production is sprinting and post-production is distance running. Because once you get into post-production, that's when you really have to have the stamina to get through it. So this is how, to answer your question, because you said, how does the industry deal with getting a job and having it plastered with CG? I would say it's a double-edged sword. I would say that on one side, it is frustrating because, well, look at ADI is a perfect example with The Thing, the remake of The Thing. They did all this incredible practical work. they shot it, you know, and then in post-production, somewhere, somehow, somebody made the decision to replace it or augment it heavily with CGI. So let me explain something. This is very important. Rarely is this done haphazardly. In other words, they don't, a production company still has to pay for that CGI. And they don't go back to ADI and they don't go back to K&B or to Legacy and say, well, we replaced all your effects with CGI. So now you have to give us all that money back. That's not the way it happens. It's like, you know, it's like if I pay you to make this mug and you make this mug and you deliver it to me and we shake hands and say that's fine, and then 2 days later I decide I don't like this mug, I want a different mug, and I go to another company and have them make a mug, I don't return this for my money back. I've purchased this. This is mine. So that's just the way it is. And that's the other thing too. We'll talk about this too, about ownership. And we'll talk about this in the business side of this, probably in week 3, but about ownership. But the bottom line is this, Auto VFX, is that I think there's 2 ways of looking at this. From a business perspective, it's, you know, if you've made a good deal, then you put the money in your pocket and you end up with some really nice portfolio pieces to sell your next, you know, to get your next job. You know, on the creative side, it does sting a little bit because, you know, you've gone through all this work, there's a lot of effort, you drag it to set, you shoot it, and what happens is it ends up just being replaced. However, I think that anyone who is hip to social media understands that this stuff still gets out. I mean, you know, we still all see it. You know, it still gets put on YouTube, it still gets put on Facebook, and people get to see your work anyway. And the fans that are so connected now, much more than they ever have been, they get to see what was not used in the film, which is one of the driving forces of Alec Gillis's Harbinger Down. If it hadn't been for the fans, who didn't love all of the practical work that ADI had done for the thing, I don't think Harbinger Down would be in production now, because there was an outcry, an absolute outcry of all the stuff that had been replaced with CGI. And they were like, why aren't we looking at this? Why aren't we looking at this? And so Alec actually turned it over to the fans and said, hey, listen, I'm all for it. You know, I want to make movies like this. I want to do films like this. But it's, you know, you have to show us that it's a viable thing. Help us, show us that the support is there, and we will do it. And the support came in, and now they're shooting right now. That's where Mr. Matt Winston is right now. He's on set for Harbinger Down right now, shooting this film. And it's just completely going to be practical effects from creature effects to miniatures. And so that's, how do I say this? It's from a business standpoint, it doesn't hurt you. You know what I'm saying? And again, it doesn't, I don't see how it costs your reputation unless something has happened on set that you didn't deliver on your side, and then they have to fix it in post. Fixing it in post is something that's you know, it's a scary thing that they've said for 30 years, actually longer than that. But then, oh, and there's something else I want to talk about too, because this is important. But a smart business person, and I'm really kind of giving you a preview of what I'm going to be teaching, is when you sit down with producers and directors and you're talking about a project, and you know there's going to be a lot of challenging creature effects in it. One of the strategies that I stand behind 100%, oop, I think I might hit my mic, sorry. One of the strategies I stand behind is pitching the idea of what I call place markers. And let me explain what a place marker is. A place marker is a low budget, practical effect that is not the final effect. It's a placeholder. And what gave me this idea was something that actually happened on Spy Kids. Because in Spy Kids, we built practical thumb suits that were really, really cool. I don't know if K&B has ever shown them in action on YouTube or on their channel, but we literally built 8, pardon me, of these big thumb suits as these performers would get in, and they'd walk around and they'd move around, and it was all replaced with CGI. We literally would shoot the shot with the actors, then they would they would take the performers off the set, and then they would shoot the shot without them, and the CGI ones were put in later. But that's where it clicked into my head that we're talking about a placeholder. So what you do is you talk to the producers and directors and say, hey, listen, why don't we put a placeholder effect in here, whether it's a, just a dummy or something, or a gag of some sort that just holds the place. So when they cut their film together, instead of having a storyboard or an animatic, they have something that's taken from the set, and they'll look at it and they can either say, well, you know what, we can kind of do a little augmentation and get away with this, or we know that we'll shoot this in post. This will be part of our post-production budget, which is, again, something else we're going to talk about in week 3. So I would say that is, I hope that answers your effects, Auto VFX. If it doesn't, you know what to do. You can type in your question and send it to Chris, and we can discuss it more, okay? So let's see next here. Oh, okay, let me see if I can pronounce this. Azareta asks, could you tell more about the budget ranges on the work you do, like how to budget designing a monster or suit or props for film? Okay, that's a really good question, and we're going to talk about that in length in week 2. In week 2, I'm really going to teach you how to, when you receive a script, how to do the breakdown. And it's really important, and again, this is just another little preview, that when you get a script, it is, I think, not just within your rights, you really need to ask, what is the budget of this picture? You have to ask it from the beginning. You can't assume that it's a $200 million epic. It might not be. And again, your receiving the script will probably be based on their exposure to you through your marketing, their recognition of your work, and understanding whether or not you'll be able to work within the boundaries of their picture. So let me explain that in just 2 seconds. A really great example is K&B Effects. K&B Effects has been highly, highly successful because they are able to do giant films as well as tiny films. And what they do is they've marketed themselves in a very smart, strategic way, because they will do, big jobs like, Return to Oz, as well as they'll do small little independent jobs like Eli Roth's new one, the cannibal one. I can't think of the name of it right now. Green something or other. Anyway, they do smaller work as well. And what it is that a company is set up like in strata, which allows them to do that. So as an independent makeup effects person, depending on the size of your shop, they will look at you and decide whether or not they think you can handle the size of the job that you're doing. So let's just give you 2 examples. One, let's talk about a low budget film, because most of you who are starting out will probably get hit up for a lot of low budget projects. So when you do that, you have to be upfront with the director, and the producer especially, because there have been many times when the director's vision is up here and the producer's pocketbook is way down here. So, but you have to be able to work with these 2 people, and so there's it's a marriage of the fantasy and the reality, where the director's telling you one thing, the producer's telling you another thing, and you need to come somewhere in the middle. And you have to make a decision about whether or not doing a small job actually is going to serve you. And that's something, it's a good place to talk about this. I'm assuming that most of you out there who are watching me right now are creatives in some way, and you want to make a living. If you want to get rich, if I don't have big question marks all over my jacket and I'm like, hey, there's free money out there, you want to get rich, this is how you get rich. This is not what this is. I'm talking about monetizing so you can make a living. I'm not talking about wealth building so that you can buy an island in the Bahamas. Because if you know how to do that, please type that into the little comment and I'll be happy to read that. I would love to find out how to buy my own island. I'm talking about what most people are, which are just working creatives. You pay your bills, you make a little money, hopefully you can take a vacation once a year or whatever, put your children through school and everything else. That's what I'm talking about. So understanding your overhead and the income that you need is a really important part of being a creative artist. So again, if that helps, hold on, let me read your name again. Azareta, I hope that helps, and if not, again, ask another question and Chris will forward it to me. This last one is from Chris Kircher. For those of us that weren't around when this industry was starting out, and a lot easier to get into, what is the best approach when walking into a practical effects shop being mechanically minded? Okay, Chris. All right. So I'm assuming that being mechanically minded means that you are not a big sculptor or painter or something, that you are much more interested in building mechanisms and things. Actually, that is, well, first of all, let's talk about let's talk about the first thing. It was a lot easier to get into. I don't know if that was right. I mean, I would say that it seems like historically people are talking about, and I say it too, that there's, was more opportunity for a certain type of work, and yes, there was, but at the same time, there were far fewer people doing this. I mean, far fewer people doing this than there are now. But like I said at the beginning of this, there were far less distribution outlets than there are now. So I would have to really look at the numbers and see if proportionately that might be a fallacy. It might be, proportionately with the, Netflix doing original content, Amazon doing original content, our own Johnny Ailes is doing original content for America Online. I mean, I would think that there is just as much opportunity then as there is now. What has changed is the business model has changed, because there were no options. In the 80s and 90s, let's put it this way, there were fewer options. There were fewer options then than there are now. That's the problem, is that because there's so much, there's more options for people. From people, I mean producers and directors, because they can look at their film and go, hey, we'll do this practically, or hey, we'll shoot plates and do this digitally, or hey, we'll make the whole film stop motion, or hey, we'll make the whole film CGI. I mean, there's plenty of options, and they're all, kind of cost effective, depending on how ambitious the production is going to get. So being easy or not so easy to get into, that is a bit of a fallacy. I know what you're saying, because when I got into the industry, there were, oh gosh, I can't remember how many shops, but a lot of shops, and you could take your portfolio and go from shop to shop to shop to shop to shop, trying to get a job. But you have to remember that every time I was in there with a portfolio, there were at least 2 or 3 other people ahead of me with their portfolios as well. And what would happen is again, in the good old bad old days, there were these big tentpole pictures, like Aliens is a great example. When we did Aliens, it was like an expansive thing. Like, there were so many people that were needed to get the prep work done before that show went to England, that they were, I mean, I walked in with my portfolio, and I love doing this. I love doing this when Matt Winston's around, because it's so funny. But his father would go through your book, and he'd look like this. He'd just flip your pages like this and go, "How much do you want?" And that was it. That was the interview. He'd flip through your book and ask you how much you wanted. And I'll never forget, at the time I had worked on a motion picture called House. Now, this is not the TV series. This is an old movie that was made back in 1985 that starred William Catt and Richard Mall, called House. And I worked for a makeup effects artist named James Cummins, who is unfortunately no longer with us. And James had paid me $450 a week. And I had gone into stands and I had showed him my book. And we're going to talk about this too, about pricing yourself. And then when he did his flip, and said, "How much do you want?" Nervously, I just said $450 a week. And I'll never forget his answer, because it was beautiful. He looked at me and said, "I'm going to pay you $100 a day, which is $50 more than you asked for, and you never forget that." Like, I was like, wow, I just got a raise. I haven't even started working yet. But I think that was probably for his bookkeeping, because it was easy just to remember that guy's 500 rather than that guy's 450. I don't know why, but maybe. But so they were literally just bringing so many people in, And then what happens is that all those people come in the door, and they're all in the shops networking and stuff, and they all meet each other, and then a few people will go off here, and a few people will go off there, and then that's kind of how the net expanded back then. Well, now it's different, because now I see it more as, and it's one of the great things about this school, is that I see this now as more of a community of smaller little entities, rather than, I say this all the time, makeup effects hasn't died. I think we said this last time. We've turned into birds. It's gone from dinosaurs to birds. There's a lot more of us, and we're smaller. and we're very efficient, and I think, and still very creative, and I think that's an advantage now. So that's why, again, and I'll talk about this in week 1, whether or not it makes sense to go to, depending on your skill level and your experience, whether it makes sense to keep, knocking your head on the door trying to get into a shop or opening your own business. But Chris, you in particular, and again, we're going to talk about this in, I believe, week 2. What you don't understand is mechanics are, how do I say this? They're a rarer breed, especially if you're good. If you're really good, then you're a much rarer breed. I mean, and it's going to be dependent on your skill set. I mean, if you can, work with a CNC machine and you're doing, computer designs of mechanisms, what it is you actually can market yourself a bit further on. And again, we'll talk about this week 1, is putting your portfolio together, putting your book together. Because with mechanical skills, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I really don't have a really cool, and it's over my shoulder this way, I'll point to it, this thing here, that's really cool, mechanical mask right there. You don't have a really cool mechanical mask, and you can demonstrate on YouTube or something. That's okay. There's a couple of things you can do, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who are the opposite of you, who are great sculptors and they've got really great creatures and they don't know beans about mechanics. Anyway, that you could seriously do a trade and say, hey, listen, I'll tell you what, I saw you on the internet, you've got this really cool creature, I'd love to mechanize it, so why don't we do a trade? You send me a test skin, you send me a test skin, I'll build the mechanics for it, then we'll put the two things together, we'll paint it and finish it, I'll operate it, and then we'll both put it on our portfolio page. You'll put it on your portfolio page for the art, the paint, the design. I put it on my portfolio page for the mechanics and everything else. And that way, you're both benefiting from it. You're both not spending all of your money on the one project. You know what I'm saying? The expenses are split between the two of you. And you end up with a great portfolio piece. But on the other side, Chris, what you can do is you can actually market yourself to visual effects people as well. Because visual effects people need mechanical rigs to do things. And not just that, but now I'm just sitting here thinking about it, you could also market yourself to Leica up north. Leica is a stop motion company. And a really great thing to do, if you haven't seen it, you really should check it out. Chris, this is your homework assignment, is get Corpse Bride, the movie Corpse Bride, and look at the extras, and look at the mechanisms that were built for that film to do very specific things, like move her dress as she walked. And if you're designing and building mechanisms like that, you actually can go to more places or offer your services to more places as well. In terms of VFX, I mean, seriously, let's just say you're doing a shot where, someone's throwing a dish and it's spinning, like the camera's behind the dish and the dish is spinning at somebody. Someone's got to build that mechanical rig. Someone has to build that thing, that dish spinning rig. And if you are mechanically minded and can think of things like that a VFX company would need in order to shoot elements against a green screen, then it actually makes you a marketable person on that level as well. And again, we'll go back to this week 1. Most of it has to do with how you present yourself, your portfolio, and the services you're offering. And this is a great idea. That's the end of my questions. This is a great idea. Let's talk about the class. So the class is called The Business of Making Monsters, and it's going to be 3 weekends, or 3 Saturdays, excuse me. First Saturday is the 8th, which is this coming Saturday, February 8th, 2014, in case you're watching this on DVD and you missed it. The first class will be specifically about getting into the industry, making the decision that you want to get into the industry. And we're going to talk about, excuse me, the 2 paths, which is 1, trying to get into one of the major shops, which entails putting a resume together. I'll talk about that, about where to gain experience, talk about that, and putting a portfolio together, taking pictures of your work and shooting video of your work, and that first weekend, or the first Saturday, I keep saying weekend, it's Saturday, it's a 4-hour class. Is that right, Chris? from 9 to 1, is that correct? Is that what we're doing?
Yes, that's correct.
9 to 1.
3
9 to
days,
1.
4 hours.
Yeah, okay. So we'll talk about photographing your work. I'll have the great Johnny Ailes here we'll do a demonstration about photographing your work. I know some of you will send your portfolios in. I'm going to look at your portfolio pages, and we'll do a quick little critique of that. And then, sorry, I have a frog in my throat. Hold on. Hang with me for 2 seconds, guys. Sorry about that. And now I sound like an old Volkswagen. I know. Boy, I just got something. All right. Can I just say that a moth flew into my mouth? It didn't, but let's just say it. So we'll be talking about putting your portfolio together and putting your, getting all that stuff together. And then, or working for yourself. Talking about how to put together work, how to assemble experiences and things so that you can work for yourself. But we're going to talk about those two aspects of the business. And like I said, John Ailes will be here to do a photography demonstration. I'm going to critique some of your work portfolios. And at the end of that week, I'm going to give you an assignment, which is based on the information that we've given you, to go back and strengthen your portfolio, strengthen your resume, and in fact, and I'm also welcoming this, come back to me with some ideas of where you think you're going to be looking for work when the course is over, or actually during the course of the webinar. Second week is going to be all about getting the job, marketing yourself. I'll have Matt Winston here, who's going to talk about the importance of social media, because if you look at the success of what the Stan Winston School of Character Arts has managed to do with social media like Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, it's amazing the community that they've built. And you can do the same thing. He'll be here for that, and then we're going to, from there, talk about getting a script, breaking it down, and then coming up with a bid. And at the end of that, I'm sorry, Mr. Litoff, can I just have that real quickly? I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to, you have to bear with me while I take a sip of water, because otherwise I'll be choking all morning.
And just hack it up. Just hack it up.
Okay, we're going to be talking about breaking down a script. So I'll be discussing with you how to go through a script, recognize opportunities for makeup effects or visual effects, because this is not going to be just practical effects centric. We're going to talk about VFX too. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And we're going to give you an assignment, which is that we're going to give you some script pages, and you're going to break them down, and you're going to come up with a bid, because we're going to be talking about the bidding process. We're going to talk about pricing yourself. We're going to talk about all that stuff the second week. So at the end of the second week, you will turn in some your script breakdown. Excuse me, at the beginning of the third week, you will turn in your script breakdown and designs. This is very important. Those of you who are participating in this at this level, you are going to turn in designs and also your strategies of how you're going to do the effects. And then we're going to have a conversation the third week with the great David Sanger and the great Eric Litoff. We'll be talking about two different things. We're going to talk about visual effects and visual effects bidding versus practical effects bidding. And Eric is going to be talking about a little bit about working on set. I have really, there is something living down there, folks.
You want to take a break?
No, it's going to come bursting out of my throat. No, it's all good, guys. It's all good. Let's just continue.
We can entertain a dance behind you?
No, it's all fine.
Yeah,
So,
Eric's
Eric's going to come dance. They're going to come dance now. No, I'm good, fellas. I really am. Anyway, I know. What can you do, right? It's live. This is the joy of live broadcasting. You never know what's going to happen. So, but we're going to talk to David Sanger about VFX versus practical effects bidding and talking about that. Eric is going to talk about working on set and set etiquette, which is really important. And then we're going to talk about something that's very, very beneficial, which is keeping the business relationships that you forge good past production. How you will make yourself more valuable to directors, producers, department heads who will hire you in the future. So that's how the class is going to work. Like I said, it's going to be 3 Saturdays, 9 to 1, and it's the 8th, the 15th, and the 1st. Ding, 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 ding. See, that didn't even have to be written down for me. I just knew it, finally. So I will be here live, and I hope you'll be here live too. So we're going to move on to something that is near and dear to my heart, because obviously, I don't know how many of you know this. I'm going to pretend like you don't know who the heck I am, because I generally don't. But I started off in this industry 30 years ago. 30 years ago this September, as a makeup effects person. And when I was living in Louisiana as a young man, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I actually wanted to be a director. Actually, this is a really important point, because sometimes I will teach live classes, you know, around Los Angeles, and we even did one at the Winston School. We did a workshop in Virginia, and one of the things I like to do with young people, well, by young I mean inexperienced novices to the industry, because I don't think age has anything to do with it. You know, what I want to be clear about is what your intention is, and this is really important, because you'll see how I'm going to tie this all together. You're going to love it. I wanted to be a director. That's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to direct as a young man, and I had we didn't have, back in the old days when there were real dinosaurs walking around, we didn't have you know, digital video cameras and you know, offline editing systems and all that stuff. It was all done with film. And I had a Super 8 camera, like many of my colleagues did, and I would make, you know, silly films in my backyard, in my garage, and I, you know, would build, you know, miniature sets on, you know, my ping pong table, and make puppets and all sorts of crazy stuff. But my focus really was I was going to be a director. What I've learned is that directors direct. That's what directors do. They just direct. Creature effects people build creatures. Visual effects people do visual effects, and I think that it's really important to know yourself, to know what it is that you want to do. To be a director, you don't have to know how to do your own makeup effects. You hire someone to do your makeup effects. You don't do them yourself. If you're interested in makeup effects, that's what you do. If you're interested in creature effects and monsters and stuff, that's what you do. And I've often said this, because people ask me, well, you know, what does it take? What does it take to be a creature effects person? And this is what I always say: look in the margins of your high school notebook and be honest. Take your math or your English notebook and open it up and look in the margins and tell me what you see. If you see rocket ships, airplanes, cars, you're probably not a creature effects person. If you see, you know, Predator and endoskeletons, doodles, and a vampire, and, you know, fangs and blood and a creepy eye and all that stuff, you're probably a creature effects person. But be honest with yourself. Look in the margins of your notebooks, because I know that I know there's no English notes in there. Are there? No. I know it's all scribbles. I mean, and that's what it is. It's daydreaming, you know, and I think that's has a lot to do with it. To be honest with what it is that interests you. I mean, I loved monsters from, you know, a little kid. I think I've said this a million times. I started with dinosaurs. I mean, dinosaurs were a huge, huge part of my childhood. And so I would look at my notebooks, and there would be just tons of dinosaurs in the margins and this and that, and I thought I was going to be a stop-motion animator. This is all going to go someplace, so hang with me, folks. But I got to CalArts and realized that my love really was for creatures. It wasn't for stop-motion, and I got into the industry that way, as did a lot of my colleagues, like one of them, Alec Gillis. Alec went to UCLA film school, and I know he wanted to be a director, and I know I've seen his Super 8 films, and he wanted to make these fantastic films, and it has taken him 20 years, folks, to get his film made, and it's not his fault. And I'm not saying that, I'm trying not to make this negative, I'm trying to spin it in a positive light, because what happens is when you walk into a room and you present yourself as something, the people in that room will assume that's what you are. So, in other words, if you want to be an actor and you think, well, you know what I'll do? I'll make myself up into these really crazy creatures, and I'll go into an audition, you know, wow, they're auditioning for pirates, so I'll do this incredible pirate makeup, and I'll go in there and go, grrr, you know, and they'll go, oh, and they'll love me because I look like a real pirate. If you do first of all, if you walked into an audition like that, they go, what? You know, and second of all, I mean, they're not going to be looking at you and your performance, they're going to be looking at your makeup. And if it's a great makeup, they're going to say to you, why don't you just do the makeup? So they're going to say to you. They're not going to say, wow, you're a great actor. Because a real great actor is going to walk in there and deliver an incredible performance without all the prosthetics on. So, I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but just be sure, be very clear about what it is that you're going to make your career. Because that's the other thing too, is again, James Cummins, who I did House with, he said something to me about creature making. He said, you have to really love it because it becomes a job. It becomes a job, and anyone who, and it's changed. But you know, if you had ever met any of the I hate to call them old timers, but you know, the people that were doing at the forefront of makeup effects, and you talk to them, they were when I would talk to them as a young person, they weren't as full of the magic and the mystery as I had hoped they would be. They were mostly like, it was a job, kid. I got paid. What do you want from me? And I get it. I hate to say it, but I get it now because it does become a job. It absolutely becomes a job. You have to imagine doing, even though every project is different and everything is different, you have to imagine every day of your life getting up and jumping into a creature pool, and that's just it. Your life is creatures or visual effects. That's your life, and you find that it affects everything. So be very, very clear about what you want to do, because it will stay with you for your life. It really will. So that leads to this question. So Shannon Shea, how did you become a producer? Well, I'll be really honest with you. We talked about this last time. I got my Screen Actors Guild card as an actor, actually, because I was in a gnome named Norm, but I had gotten into the union or became union eligible as a puppeteer, which a lot of people did back in the 80s, because Stan was really, really adamant about what we do being performance, not being just, you bring, a creature on set and, flap its mouth and, okay, that's it. I mean, it's a performance. We are characters. We are there to support the film and tell the story as much as any actor on set. So, but I got my SAG card and I was thinking, you know what, and we'll talk about this too, my hospitalization and all my benefits and my pension and all that stuff were through Screen Actors Guild, so I should make my card work for me. So I did some auditions and I did a few small projects in the year 2012, but I met a director named Joseph Stachura, who was mounting a production called Scream at the Devil. And I went in I called him to audition for him because I wanted to be one of the actors. And in retrospect, I can't imagine who I would have played, but that's okay. And we sat and talked, and in the conversation, he did exactly what I'm telling you is going to happen. He said, why don't you just do my effects? And I was like, oh, Joseph, oh man, come on. It's like I'm trying to make a move, a lateral move here, and now you're just taking me and putting me back inside the box again. So we, upon further discussion, we made a deal, and I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll do your effects, but I want to be an effects producer. I don't want to do the effects, but I will certainly be a producer and make sure that the effects get done, well. And we shook hands and we agreed, and it was within the course of the film that, listen, it's just the way it is, guys. I just, because of my experience and because of my age, I mean, you can see it, I just happen to know more than most of the people that were on the set who were less experienced than I was. And so Joseph came to me and said, you just need to produce this. You got to produce it. And I said, done. So I ended up, that's how I made the switch from makeup effects person into producing. And I find that at my age, it's great because this is going to sound strange, but I feel like I'm becoming Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's what I feel like. I feel like my experience, my training, all that stuff, I train younger people to do, I'll put it this way. I'll get you to the Death Star, but you have to be the one that fires the proton torpedoes and blows it up, right? I'll get you there. So what I did was, Scream at the Devil was let's just say a modestly budgeted a project. And I had to make some decisions as the visual effects producer. I could either go to my network of friends who, and say, hey, listen, I know that you have an overhead of X amount of dollars a month and you have a payroll. Yeah. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Matt is sitting there with the...
Is he?
Yeah, and he would like to say hello.
Uh-oh. I've got Matt Winston on the line, folks. So we're live.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Shannon, put it on speakerphone so everyone can hear me.
Are you not on speakerphone now? You're on speaker.
Am I?
Yes, sir. And I have
Okay, great.
Can you hear my
Number one,
mic?
you're doing a great job, and I hope everyone's enjoying this second webinar. I wanted to let you guys know that I'm here on the set of Harbinger Down. I'm sitting next to Lance Henriksen right now.
Hey, Lance.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hey.
Hi, it looks good. It looks great.
Can you hear?
And we're going to be checking in with you guys. We have another shot to get off, and then I'm going to get on my computer and check in with you guys, say hello, and even show them a little bit of the Harbinger Down set. So
That's going to be exciting.
I just wanted to check in.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, and that goes really well with what we've been talking about today, because I was just, I mean, if you've been watching, Matt, we've been talking about moving into other avenues of, and I was just talking about Alec and how he's been so great on set, because last time I saw him, well, actually before I saw you on set last week, I had spoken to him just before you guys started shooting, and he was in such a great mood, and I said, aren't you nervous, aren't you scared? And he said, I've waited 20 years for this. I'm going to enjoy it. And I said, and I just think that's so important. It's so important.
So Lance Henriksen was just saying that about Alec, that 30 years as a creature creator has made him a great director. Do you want to reiterate that, Lance, about Alec Gillis?
Oh, this guy, I think he can all direct all these creature effects on movies. You're sensitive to people, and you know what you're doing, know what has to be seen and done. So it's a great thing. And Alec is the most gentle, friendly, wonderful guy. He is not authoritarian. He's a good guy.
I don't think anyone would get away with being authoritarian with Lance Henriksen.
No, this is true. This is true.
Anyway, we're going to be checking in with you guys when we have a moment.
That's
and
great.
On the set of Harbinger Down.
Awesome.
During this broadcast, I just wanted to check in with you.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Thank you so much.
All right, brother. You're doing an awesome job.
Thank you, my friend.
I'll
Thank
talk to you later.
All right. See
Bye.
you, Matt. Bye. Thank you, Chris. There you have it. How's that? Again, live broadcasting. You guys just heard from Lance Henriksen. Isn't that exciting? It's really cool. I'm telling you, Harbinger Down. I've walked the sets, and it's really amazing. It's amazing what they were able to do. So, and that's, again, I love it because it just segues right back into what I'm talking about, which is producing and Scream at the Devil. So, like I said, I could have gone to, yes, sir, Chris?
We have some pictures.
Some pictures?
From Scream at the Devil. Anytime you'd like us to bring them up, just let us know.
Okay, we'll do, absolutely. So, and actually, gosh, I don't know if there's any way I could preview them here and tell you what I'm looking at here. So, well, wait, before we go, let me just tell you about the decisions that I had to make as a producer. So Joseph sat with me and said, hey, listen, I want you to do both, the visual effects and the practical effects. And I said, absolutely, that'd be great. Look, there I am there. So what you see here is, I don't know, where, that's what you're looking at here?
And what's up in the top right corner is what's actually being shown.
Okay, there I am. That is Jane Park Smith, who is a character in the film, and let's keep it on this slide for just a second there, Chris, if we can. The decision that I made was to not burden my my associates, who really have to be in pursuit of projects that will make their economic limits. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I would love to have gone to Mike Elizalde and go, hey, Mike, can you do all the makeup effects for Scream at the Devil? Here's no money. I mean, I just couldn't do that to Mike. I mean, and I know Mike well enough that he would probably, if I pushed him, would probably have agreed to it, and he's such a sweet guy that he probably wouldn't have complained that much. But I don't want to do that to Mike. I mean, I want to go to Mike and be able to give him a project that is worthy of the level of his shop. I feel that same way about ADI or Legacy, and it's not that the material was not worthy of these shops, it was that the budget was not worthy of these shops. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that's a very important thing from a producer's standpoint to recognize that obviously I'm going to try to get as much as I can for the money that I have to spend. And that's something else that's really a big misnomer. I think misunderstanding is that people think that a producer just goes with whoever's cheapest. Okay, this person's cheap, so I'm going to go with that person. That's not true. Every producer is looking for value for their money. So I gave this a lot of thought. And again, I'm telling this to you just straight so you understand that I was on Facebook and I saw David Woodruff, who is Tom Woodruff's son. David Woodruff had started his own business. And so I knew several things right from the outset. Number one, I knew he was hungry because his shop needed credits. Number two, I knew he was operating at a fraction of what ADI was working for. And I'm going to be really blunt, and Tom and Alec, you can punch me in the nose later, but hey, listen, the first time you want to punch a producer in the nose. But I knew that Tom would not let his son fail. I knew it because I wouldn't let my daughter fail. If I knew my daughter had a big job and she came to me at one point and went, oh my gosh, I'm going under, I would go, what can I do to help you? I am a manipulative producer, Eric. Thank you. I am a manipulative producer. So I sat down with David Woodruff and we talked a little bit about what we were going to do for the effects. Now, in my head, I'm thinking very, very, what is the word I'm looking for? Traditionally, sorry, very traditionally. I'm thinking, okay, we have to sculpt these things and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But David brought something completely different, things I hadn't considered, which he said, well, why don't we see what we have? And this is something I'm going to talk to you about week one. He said, why don't we see what we have? And like this picture, I don't know if this skull picture here, you want to put that up again there, Chris? This is actually something David had just lying around his shop. And I looked at it and I went, and at the time it didn't have the horns on it. I was like, and I think that was his partner Frank runs a haunted house. And that was one of the props from a haunted house. And I looked at him and I went, David, why don't we just use that? He was like, yeah, great. So he glued horns on it, we painted it, and this and that. There's another picture there that's coming up. We'll talk about that young woman in just a second. And David opened my eyes to what I will call the beg, borrowing, and I won't say stealing. Let's say beg, borrowing, and buying of the makeup effects for that film. And we ended up not having to make a heck of a lot. We did, but we didn't have to make a heck of a lot because David had a set of assets, you know, there, and take your mind out of the gutter. I'm talking about stuff. He had stuff. He had masks. He had prosthetics. He had this and that. And what we didn't have, David knew enough of what Nigel's here in Hollywood, Nigel's Beauty Emporium. He knew enough of what they had in stock that he literally would say to me, "We need a scar. I know where to get that scar. We can get that at Nigel's for $35. We need this. I know where to get that. I know where to get that." And I literally would meet him at Nigel's, and together he would take me through, and we would go shopping. This is true. And he'd say, "We can use this for this. We can use this for this. We can use this for this," and it was great. Meanwhile, I knew I needed a makeup artist. I needed a straight makeup artist who could do prosthetic work. And I had taught a class at the Cinema Makeup School, and I'd met a lot of potential candidates, and I talked to my good friend who, once again, going back to house, Mike Spatola, and I said, Mike, recommend, because you were in school, he was one of the main people at Cinema Makeup Schools, and I said, give me an idea of who do you think are the best? And he gave me some names, and of the names, I talked to several of them, but I will tell you that from a producer standpoint, hiring Devin Weitzman made the most amount of sense to me. When I sat down and talked to Devin, she was really shrewd, and Devin is the young woman. You want to put up that slide of her right there working? Yeah, there's Devin. She was really shrewd because, and I admire this. This is, again, something I'm going to talk about week one, is that we talked, and I had seen her work, and I was familiar with what she could do with prosthetics, but she then told me she was also she did beauty makeup, and she was a licensed hairdresser. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I have a lead actress who's going to be on screen. That's her right there, Sherry Shattuck, who's right there in the makeup chair with Devin, and as you see, Sherry has a lot of hair, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so I can hire a makeup artist. I can hire someone to do prosthetics, and I can hire a hairdresser, or I can hire Devin, and I'm getting the most value for my money, because Devin will do prosthetics, Devin will do straight makeup, and Devin will do hair work. And the reason I'm telling you this is because this is very important when you start going into the business world, going to business for yourself, because she was smart, because she had those skills, and as she was telling me those skills, in my head, I'm thinking, what am I going to get the most value for my dollar? And then what it turned out, and really exceeded my expectations, was that she was a heck of a business person too. She knew how to stay on budget. She knew how to find the makeups that we needed for for a price point that worked for us. And she was tireless on set, just tireless. She really, and I want to say, gosh, I want to say she's what, 24, 25 years old, maybe. I know she's under 30, and she basically, I dropped her into a department head. So I didn't just hire her, I hired her and said, this is your department. Every day you're going to come to set. Every day you're going to make up Sherry Shattuck, you're going to make up Eric Adibari, you're going to make up Jane. And I know that Jane, who you saw wearing that blue suit, which we'll talk about in a second, I knew that she had trouble in the past with movie makeup artists, but she met with Devin, and Devin did a great job on her makeup, on her test, and it was just like, boom, kismet, all works. So from a producer's standpoint, that's what I want. Do you understand? I want to make sure that I have the best people that are in these positions for the price point. So then, David brought in Chris Dombo, so we're going to put up that slide of Chris working there, Chris and David working there. Yeah, there they are. Chris Dombos came in, very talented young man. Again, I met him at Monsterpalooza, and this is something else I'm gonna repeat, because let's face it, repetition is the road to mastery. Chris's attitude was just amazing. He was a can-do guy, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't even see his portfolio. I knew of him by reputation, because I knew Chris was working and helping out a lot of people in Los Angeles, and no one had anything bad to say about Chris. It was all positive. So David brought Chris on, and it was amazing because he did a great job. There's Chris and David in this picture. They're doing a prosthetic application on Eric Adibari, and again, it was value for money. I mean, Chris, how can I say this? Well, I'll just say it. Chris donated his time to the project because he wanted to be a part of it. He wanted to show us what he could do. He wanted to be, he wanted the credit on his resume, and it wasn't like he was there, every day for 30 days. He was there for 2 or 3 days, and he did a great job. It's a terrific job, and it also helped him. He walked away with, things for his portfolio, and that's the other thing too. Is that, and we'll talk about this. Week one is weighing out opportunities to know what's good and what's not good. What I'm doing right now is I'm giving you a behind the scenes of how a producer looks at things and how they see things. The benefit that Joseph had hiring me personally as a producer on that visual effects producer on the film is that I too knew how to do things. And like I said, we sprinted during the shoot, and then we got into post-production, and then that's when things started happening. So we knew we needed a shot, and it's a quick shot. It's like literally, 2 or 3 seconds of hell. Joseph wanted the main character to look out a window and see hell. So using very inexpensive materials. You want to put up that slide, because that's what this is here. I built a miniature set in Joseph's garage, and what that is gosh, I'm going to get it wrong. That the board, I'd never worked with that board before. That's like stage flooring. It's like pressed board that I could actually carve the cracked mud lines into, and that's styrofoam sheeting to make the mountains in the background, and just spray polyfoam, that the insulation foam. I think I put the whole miniature, and I painted it. I think the whole miniature went together like in 2 or 3 days, and we shot it. We shot it in Joseph's garage. They brought in I want to say, I think it was a Sony Blackmagic camera, and we had light. We lit it, and had smoke and all this crazy stuff. And for the 2 seconds that you see it on screen, if I had done this in a digital world, it would have cost infinitely more than I want to say we spent, I don't know, $50 putting this together, in a garage and shooting it. So that's what I'm saying. It's value for dollar. It's value for dollar. And then there's another thing. I see another slide down here that we're going to show. We needed clouds. And so using a technique that has been used for many years, including here at New Deal Studios, I actually saw a really great cloud rig here at New Deal. That's a polyfill. That's just made out of pillow stuffing. And I saw something that New Deal had done here where they had actually hooked a tube to the polyfill cloud, and they had like dry ice smoke coming out of it. Well, that's not what we needed. We needed something that was more akin to like a cloud tank. But knowing that there was no way our cloud tank would be big enough to shoot rolling thunderclouds, we actually built these clouds with polyfill. And I will say that one of the young people I worked with at the University of Virginia, Lauren Shea, through the Winston School, Matt contacted me and she said, hey, Lauren's out here and she's looking for intern experience. Do you have anything for her? And it was just timing. I said, well, I'm building a miniature hellscape. I'm building clouds. Why don't you have her call me? So she called me and I said, listen, if you want to come up for the experience and you want to come up and do this work, I've got a lot of stuff and you can help shoot. So again, she donated her time. She drove up to where we were working and helped build the clouds. Joseph Statura, the director, actually went out to, I can't remember where he went, I want to say Joann's or something, and bought grain of wheat bulbs that we put into the clouds to simulate lightning. So on camera, we filmed those in front of a black screen. Actually, this shot here is actually, believe it or not, in the workshop where we built the clouds. That's why you can see the window in the background. But on set, we were able to just flicker the lights to make lightning. And then all we did was composite them into the shots, and what we ended up getting were like rolling lightning clouds. Again, you know, to do this with a visual effect with CGI would have cost a lot of money. You know, to get a big cloud tank and fill it with water and have it would cost a lot of money. This was a very low cost, low tech way of getting a really great effect. So, and going back to assets now, and going back to value for money. So, knowing when I talked to David, and I was going through all the effects, the breakdown with him, and David was lucky because since I was VFX producing, I did the breakdown for him and just kind of handed him the breakdown and said, "This is what we're doing." He said, you know, there's a part where this woman has to, Sherry Shattuck has to appear pregnant, and you know, pregnancy bellies are and they're really a touchy thing. If they're done poorly, then they're no good. And David just said, I have one. I said, you have one? He goes, yeah, I've got one in my studio. And I was like, great. So there it was. It was just, you know, again, value for money. He had a pregnancy belly, and we used it, and it was done. You know, the shot is finished. It was already manufactured. And having all of these assets, again, made David valuable to me as a makeup effects person for Scream at the Devil. I see another shot here. There were some things that we had to do, and again, you can put up the slide. There's some. There I am working, if you can imagine. This is the upper left-hand side is David and Frank Balzer's shop, GenFX, and right below that there's Devin. We had to run appliances for a demon makeup, and again, it was great because we were trying to come up with a concept for the makeup, and Devin had her iPad, and she was showing Joseph and Sherry a bunch of her work, and she happened to show them the prosthetic makeup she had done at Cinema Makeup School for her final project, her final makeup effects project, and they loved it. They said, that's it, that's what we want for our demon. So again, Devin came in, she had the molds, all we had to do was run foam in them to make new prosthetics, and it was done. Again, value for money. So it just happened to be that if she had not had her iPad and she had not presented her makeup in a way that really got Joseph excited about it, then chances are we probably would have had to sculpt something or go to Nigel's and find pieces and you know, put something together just because we didn't have the money to do it. But Devin had the molds, we ran them, and you know, Bob's your uncle, it's done, you know, and it turned out really, really beautifully. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of there are opportunities that, and by the way, I mean, they never expressed it to me, which I guess is one of the beautiful things about being a producer is I don't have to hear the complaining. That's not true, I hear it all the time. But Devin and David and Chris and Mo Meinhardt and Jess Ramos, and I can't remember all their names, Taylor, Kelby, all of these people who came out to help. Who else am I missing? I'm missing someone. I know, I'll get an angry letter later. But they all came out and they had a great time, you know, and we were, again, what we couldn't do with big budgets, we figured out creative ways of doing it. And for the price point, I think that everyone walked away happy. I know Joseph walked away happy, I walked away happy, they walked away happy, and that is the essence of a successful job, is that we all go our separate ways, and Joseph is thinking, I'd hire David Woodruff again, I'd hire Devin Weitzman again. I'm thinking the same thing, you know, and they are thinking, gosh, I'd love to work with Shannon and Joseph again, because they had a great time and we all did a great thing. That's the goal, folks. The goal is that at the end of the day, you want to have a great experience and further your career. Now, and when you don't have a great experience, what you end up with is that's when you get the war stories. That's when, you know, you're sitting there with a beer and someone goes, hey, what happened on fill in the blank, and you tell them a horror story and they go, oh my God, and you know, they say, thank God I wasn't there, or, you know, if you spin it a certain way, you get them laughing. So that's just a little brief, and by the way, I did this on purpose, and because I know that someone had asked, can you take us through something from beginning to end? And I hope that kind of gives you an overview of it, about getting a project, being hired as a producer, finding the people to do the job, you know, executing the job, and then everyone leaving happy. That's Scream at the Devil, you know. And I think we talked, this talk this morning, we're gonna do, and I hate to do this on camera, and I'm sure Matt, if he's, you know, gonna, you know, plots, but we had talked earlier about doing a making of for the blog of Scream at the Devil, because I think that I really want to give these young people their due, you know, and since we being the Stan Winston School, we're so, how was I going to say this? We were so effective in helping Lauren, who we met at the University of Virginia, to do an internship out here. And she didn't just work here, she also worked at ADI, and she worked in a lot of places too. I mean, I just think that to tell these people the story and for you to see what they were able to do is tremendously important, okay? So again, the name of the class is The Business of Making Monsters. Chris, do you want to do this or you want me to do this? Oh, you want me to do it? Okay. So it's called The Business of Making Monsters. It starts this Saturday, February 8th at 9 in the morning, Pacific time. We'll go from 9 to 1. And it's a 3-day webinar. Happens on the 8th, the 15th. What's it? Oh, we only have 3 professional critique seats left. Wow, you know what? Wait a minute. Wait, hold on, folks. Okay. I'm gonna just do this, but then I'm gonna turn it over to Chris, because obviously Chris is gonna, because I want you to say some things, Chris. But it's a 3-day webinar. We're really excited about this. And going back to something we said the last time we were talking, was that you know, Stan was known for his imagination, his creativity, but he also had a hell of a reputation as a business person. And we are really proud to bring this to you. I mean, this is life-changing. This is life-changing information. And even if you're operating your own shop, and I will tell you that I have seen, I'm watching. You think I'm not looking. I'm watching you folks. I saw the website of one of our students, and they run a company in Texas, and you know who I'm talking about. I looked at your website, and I have comments. We're going to talk about your website, because I think that it's exciting what you're doing, but I see some opportunities that you're missing, and I'm seeing some things as a producer that make me go, this could be a little better. So, and that's what I'm talking about. That's the benefit of this being a live exchange. You know, I'm going to be giving you information. You're going to be asking me questions. We'll answer more questions later on in the broadcast. And what we're going to do is we're going to get you, you know, monetizing your talent. That's the goal with this workshop. You know, again, we've had so many great artists here showing you how to sculpt, showing you how to paint, showing you how to make molds. Rob Freitas, you know, incredible things, you know, hair work, makeup, all of it. Now we're going to tell you how to take all those talents and monetize it, because that is part of, you know, that is the definition of being a professional, right? You want to make money. So week 1 is going to be talking about presenting yourself, making the decision whether you're going to go work in a shop or work in, work for yourself. There are benefits to both. And between you, me, and the fence post, another free thing here is that it's best to do a little of both. To work in a shop part-time, work for yourself part-time. It's the best of both worlds. And how to do it, how to take pictures of your work, how to structure your resume, how to set price points for yourself so that you become attractive to potential employers, whether they are a motion picture production company or a shop. We're also going to talk about photographing your work. I said the great Johnny Ailes will be here. We'll do a demonstration. I'm going to look at some of your portfolios. We'll do a critique. I'll look at your work. I mean, hey, you're right. The whole point is exposure. So you send me the work, and guys, and girls, guys and gals, let's not be sexist here. You're dealing with the teddy bear, right? I'm a teddy bear, guys. I'm not going to sit there and just go crap, crap, crap. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you constructive criticism. That's the point. I want you to be the best that you can be. So that's week one. Week two, we're going to talk about getting a job, which is receiving a script, doing a breakdown, doing a budget, figuring out how to do a budget. We'll talk a little more about these placeholder things and other strategies. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the paperwork that's involved. And whether you're going to be a 1099 employee, whether you're going to go on production payroll, what that means. We're going to be talking about budget, time management, all that stuff, and design work, how to present your designs, the different ways you'll present your designs, working with different department heads to get the job. So day one is presenting yourself. Day two will be getting the job. Day three will be executing the job. That will happen on March 1st. So let me go back. But on February 15th, those of you who have decided to participate in the live exchange, I'm going to hand you, I think it's 4 script pages. 4 script pages that have been designed specifically for you participants to go break it down, come up with some designs, give me the makeup effects list of what you're going to build and the price points and how you're going to do it, and then you're going to submit those bids at the end of the beginning of week 3. Week 3 is March 1st, and that day. Oh, I'm sorry. So weekend 2, Saturday number 2. That's on the like I said, the 15th of February. Matt Winston will be here. The lovely Matt Winston will be here, and he'll be talking about marketing. Again, just to reiterate, what the Winston School has done using social media is unprecedented. They've built a community of 1 million+ people that are, interested and passionate about this. So what you want to do is he's going to talk about how he did it, how they've managed this, and how to build a community and how to build interest. And I have some things I want to comment about that too. So we'll talk about that week 2. So week 3, we're going to talk about, okay, you got the job. So we're going to talk about figuring out, working with directors and producers, how to, execute everything in pre-production and production and post-production. And that week, we're going to have David Sanger here, who is one of the partners here at New Deal Studios, as well as one of the officers of the Stan Winston School of Character Arts. Dave and I are going to talk a little bit about visual effects and practical effects and budgeting for the two of them. We're going to talk about storyboards, visual effects storyboards, all that business. And like I said, like Matt and I were talking about this last time we got together, the importance of not being, what is the word I want to say? Not, aggressive is not the word, but understanding that we become part of a team. You're not like, okay, visual effects are the Hatfields and practical effects are the McCoys, and we're gonna feud. It's like, no. How you can help each other out. And that goes back to, again, to Chris's question. I mean, if you're a mechanical, if your mind is in mechanical effects and you're doing practical effects, talking with a visual effects person and saying, hey, listen, do we need to build a rig that slams the door in the middle of a shot? Do we need a rig that's going to split a table in 2? And knowing how to build those things and figuring out how to build those things, because again, it's all billable. It's all billable. We're also going to talk about overages. We're going to talk about manufacturing prosthetics and how to budget for those and what happens when you run out of prosthetics in the run of a show. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff week 3, and then at the end of that class, or towards the end of that class, we're going to go through everyone's bids. We're going to go through everyone's designs, and we're going to throw a few curveballs your way. We're gonna say a few things, make some suggestions, and we're going to send you back with the new information as if I was the producer / director, or Matt's the director, or David Sanger, or whoever. But we're going to look at your stuff. We're going to throw you a few curveballs, and then we're going to have you submit your final bid and your final design. And from the final bid and final design, we will then contact that person and say, hey, you did it. You ran the distance, you did the bid, you did your breakdown, you got it where we want it, you showed us a design, you've presented us with a strategy that we like, and we feel we can we can execute on set for our fictional price point, and that will be the class. And then for those of you who have signed up for the professional interaction, you'll actually have some time to sit with me personally for an hour, and we'll talk about the specifics of your business and what we can do. So Chris, do you want to say anything else? Am I jumping, you want to talk anything more about the class and how this is going to work? Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions that I've got.
Your mic, sir?
My mic? Yeah, hey, yeah.
My mic's on.
Ah, you see? Again, live broadcasting, folks. Look at what we're doing. So Chris is gonna come on in just a second as soon as he can find a mic. You want to just take my mic? I can unclip it from my tie here. Look at that. Look at this. Oh my. While we're waiting, look at my cool Jurassic Park mug. That wasn't given to me. I had to buy that. That was not a gift. That's how much I love the movie. I love the movie so much. I drink out of a Jurassic Park mug every morning. And what was it? It was 93. 11 years of drinking out of a Jurassic Park mug, folks. So anyhow, well, listen. While we're waiting. 11, it was 21 years, right? 21 years. Where's the time gone? You see? Oh my gosh. So if Chris isn't ready, I'm going to talk about something else.
You guys, you got me, Coco?
Are you ready, Chris?
Yeah? All right.
All right, Chris is ready to do his spiel. You want to come on camera? Come here, Chris. Come here, Chris.
No.
I love Chris.
I
Come
look
here,
awful.
come here.
Hi,
no,
everyone.
No, look. I love this guy.
So yeah, we have 3 seats left for professional or live critique.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you want one, and everybody does, my suggestion is you better hurry up. They've been selling like hotcakes. This guy knows a whole lot about film and special effects in general.
Yes, I have the wounds to show it.
But and a couple of our students have been asking about the portfolios, and there will be a forum that goes up in a welcome email that is sent out this week for everyone. And that was pretty much all I had to say.
Okay, so, but I will get those portfolios.
You will get those portfolios Saturday. Hopefully Friday night.
Friday night?
So you'll have a little bit of time to look them over.
Ah, good. How many portfolios do we have so far, do you know?
There are 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
6 portfolios. This is exciting. This is exciting. I can't wait. I love seeing people's work. I love it. It really is. It's so gratifying.
Yeah,
it really is.
absolutely.
It's so exciting to see what people have going on in their heads, and it's great. Like I said, and by the way, Chris, what is the name of that site that you sent me? I should say their site.
Was it Wix? Is that the one that I sent you to?
No, not that one. The other one. The guys in Texas that did the Halo costumes.
Oh, Blue Realm Studios.
Blue Realm Studios. You guys, I'm talking to Blue Realm right now. I thought it was great seeing what you guys were doing, and I was looking at it just going, wow, this is really amazing. You know, guys in Texas doing this, and I saw the films, and they were really cool. And I listen, my hat goes off to you. I mean, you know, it's tough to make a go of a company anywhere, and I saw the pictures of your studio, and it's really cool, and I look forward to giving you my comments. It's really awesome. So yeah, I get really excited to see people's work, you know, especially and when the work is great, it's even that much more exciting. And that's one of the beautiful things about being an instructor, and actually being a part of the Stan Winston character arts community, is that you guys share so much, and it's awesome to see you know, all the different things, the sculptures, the illustrations, the digital work that you guys do. It's all really exciting. So I'm very pleased to be a part of it, and I'm pleased to kind of hopefully shepherd you into the next phase of your career. So that said, let's talk a little bit about a bigger budget movie. Let's talk about, because this is a great thing, because this goes back to my whole Hatfields and the McCoy comment about, and we've talked about this, and there seems, you know, it's just so strange, you know, when you're, I can't tell you how many times a week it happens, and in that it's, the argument comes up again, you know, about, well, right here, I mean, that was number what? Wasn't it number 2? Auto VFX, about CGI and practical effects. Matt Winston has been saying this, a lot of us have been saying this for, you know, many years, is that we believe that exclusivity in any realm is risky. I think that, you know, depending on the project, you know, well, let's be honest, we're now moving into 4K. 4K. I don't get it. Johnny Ailes says there's a reason for it. I don't.
Oh, I disagree.
Oh, he's just disagreed. Okay.
Too much data.
Too much data. Well, not just that, but it's too much detail. I mean, I'll be honest. You know, you know, my wife Tracy and I were watching TV, and it's, you know, how do I say this? It used to be that the camera was unkind to actors over a certain age. Now it's just unkind to everybody. I mean, you see young people and their faces look like the, you know, the surface of the moon, and you're going, why do I need to see all this detail? But this is important because, you know, and again, you'll see how I'm going to sew all this together again, folks. When I had the pleasure of you know, working on a biography with Rick Baker, and we were doing the chapter on Harry and the Hendersons. And Harry was, I mean, obviously for many reasons, very important project for Rick. By and large, it was I want to say, and I may have this wrong historically, but I believe it was one of, if not the first, radio-controlled masks that a performer wore. Before that, everything was cable-driven. It was literally, you know, pulling a lever and moving, you know, moving tabs and things on a face using cable controls. Harry was the next step in the evolution, and it really kind of was, you know, one of the major technical breakthroughs of makeup effects. And when it was up for nomination for an Academy Award, there was a lot of blowback, right? Because people were saying, hey, you know, it's not makeup. And Rick said something, and it's really interesting. He said that, again, going back to Max Brake and the 3D printing, servo motors, this technology, it's a tool. It's a tool. Our job is to create creatures. It's a tool, you know, makeup effects, visual effects, however you want to classify it, it's a tool. And it was taking, you know, the limitations of gluing prosthetics onto someone's face and keeping a design that they could move with the muscles of their face versus building these artificial muscles, which are servo motors, which are driving everything. So we were talking about the nature of the changing of that philosophy, going from straight prosthetics and straight, and by the way, I'm talking about creature effects, folks, and creature makeups, you know, going from that into the servo motors, going to this new technology. Well, we were talking, and he said to me, he said, you know, if you look about what's happening now, not just in visual effects films, but in a lot of major motion pictures, almost any close-up on an actor is now taken into a computer and softened, because otherwise you get something that's very harsh looking, and it just has to do with the nature of how much information the camera is picking up. So almost every close-up is going to go through a visual effects pass anyway now. It's the nature, it's the changing nature of the beast. So, but it's this marriage, it is this cooperation between visual effects and practical effects, and I want to really talk about that with one of the first films that I worked on that really kind of stressed that cooperation, and I'm talking about Terminator 2. In 1990, I had just finished Dances with Wolves, and I had taken a hiatus from stands and gone back on Terminator 2, and I think that when it comes, you know, and there's our beautiful endoskeleton there. I believe that's the full-size endoskeleton that we built. But it was interesting because I think that visual effects at that time were building on themselves. Jim had done The Abyss, James Cameron had done The Abyss, and they had really great success with a water tentacle, even though Steve Johnson had built all the really beautiful NTIs from the Steve Berg design. And I have to mention Steve Berg because he's my old college roommate, so I had to throw out a shout out to Steve. But and it was his birthday this month, last month too, so happy birthday, Steve. And but Steve had built the NTIs, and you know, ILM had done the water tentacle, and so Jim was taking it the next step, which was the T1000 and bringing, you know, this morphing effects and this stuff to Terminator, the Terminator mythos. So a lot of what we did on Terminator 2 was trying to determine what we were going to build versus what was going to be done in a computer. And what applied then, you know, it still applies now. I mean, I don't know if I mean, sure, the software's gotten better and the modeling has gotten better and everything's gotten, you know, we've made, you know, strides, you know, since 1990 with what they're able to do in CGI and what we're able to do with practical effects. I mean, we've made huge strides. However, it was that cooperation going back and forth. Like, for instance, this right now, what you see on your screen is an endoskeleton, and this is a special endoskeleton because most of the puppets, because of the way they had to be operated and puppeteered and carried, let's face it, carried on set, were made out of you know, fiberglass and lightweight urethanes and things. This particular puppet for this one shot, which is in the opening sequence, this was made out of metal. This is an actual steel, metal. I don't know if it's steel or aluminum. I think it may be a cast aluminum, and then vacuum metallized to give it the high chrome look. And it was shot practically. Now, I mean, it would be very easy these days just to go, hey, we'll just do that in post. We'll just shoot it in post. But you know, then this was a shot that was awarded to the practical effects, and we literally had to produce and build a metal endoskeleton that could withstand fire, and that's exactly what that is. So I think that there's another slide there, which is another endoskeleton puppet. I think if you look closely, I mean, I know this is behind the scenes. I think you can, I don't know, I can't tell if that's wreckage in the background or if it's actual cable mechanisms. Well, you can see, oh, no, you can see he doesn't have his legs on there. You see that? He doesn't even have his legs on. This is that was a waist-up puppet. And oh, and there's Mike Tersick in the background. You can see him hunching down with his headphones on, puppeteering there. This is, you know, this is, again, executing the practical effect on set. You know, there was, I can't remember if they were at that time, if they were stop motion like they were in the first Terminator, or if they were CGI. I want to say they were CGI endoskeletons in the background to flesh out the shot. But that's what I'm saying. It was a perfect marriage of a practical effect in front, a visual effect in the background, flushing it out. Okay, wait.
Pause for a second, Shannon.
We have pause. We're going to pause for a second here, folks.
We gotta pause. We may have an audio problem.
Ooh. Oh, we're pausing. Right here? Hold on. Can you hear me? Am I back up? There we go. Awesome. There we go. So now here's the big question. What was I saying, and what was the last thing you heard? Anybody know? Should I just go all the way back again?
Practical in the front, CG.
Oh, practical in the front, CG in the back. Thank you so much. So yeah, oh, look at this. Chris is going to bring something here. It's show and tell time here. Look at this bad boy. Look at that. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. There, look at that. How about that? I'll leave him right here while we talk. So yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. Isn't that great? I don't know, what is this from, Chris? I don't recognize this.
This is a sideshow.
Oh, it's a sideshow.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
That's the master for the sideshow piece. You know, obviously everything designed and sculpted at the shop.
Do you know who sculpted this? This one?
Not that much.
Wow. Well, if any of my colleagues are watching, you can tell me who did this. It's a beautiful piece. It's really nice. Yeah. So I will tell you that I remember originally when Jim came to the shop, he wanted to do, because of the nature of this, I'm turning the camera so you can see, because of the nature of this where, this side was all robot and this side is Arnold, he wanted to do shots where, literally this is what he wanted to do, where from this side, let me show you, I get the side right, okay, so from this side, it's Arnold talking, and it would be literally Arnold talking. And then once he turned this way, he originally wanted to be able to cut to a practical puppet that could lip sync. That's what he wanted to do. I know, 1990. And not that we couldn't have done it, folks. It was just that we didn't have the time or the money. Are you kidding? To turn around and do that? I mean, we ended up doing some really great mechanical heads for Terminator 2, but originally he wanted, that's what he wanted. He wanted this side to be a lip syncing puppet head because he felt that that was the best way to be able to show the depth and all that into the T. He's the T300. Is that what he is? This guy.
That's 8. 800.
The T800. That's right. So the 800 series. That's beautiful. Look at that. Lovely. Boy, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this kind of stuff too later because this is this is how to say this. I'm just going to say it. It's a great way of making extra money. Is doing stuff like this.
Someone had a question about that, about licensing.
That's a really okay. That's a really good.
Is that something we'll cover in the course?
That is something we'll cover that in the course when it comes to expanding your income opportunities. We'll talk about that because here's the thing. You have to pay for licensing for anything that's going to be mass produced and sold to the consumer, right? So in other words, Sideshow Collectibles was the company that does these beautiful pieces, this one, and I don't know if you can see which way I have to lean. That beautiful Predator right there over my shoulder. License, they have to pay 20th Century Fox, who owns a license on that, and I want to say this is, Terminator is Universal Studios. They have to pay Universal Studios to license their products. So what that means is it depends on the licensing agreement you get. Sometimes you have to pay them a percentage of the sale of the piece. Sometimes you can pay them a big lump of money and you have the license for a specific product for a certain amount of time. It just depends on the studio and the licensing that you get. But that said, if you were going to say, oh, I don't know, let's say you're a huge fan of, let's say, Bela Lugosi at Dracula. And I know that now every alarm is ringing over at Universal Studios. But let's be honest, if you just did a painting of your interpretation of Bela Lugosi as Dracula, you do a beautiful painting of it, and you take it to a gallery, and a gallery owner goes, oh my gosh, it's the most incredible painting of Bela Lugosi as Dracula I've ever seen in my life. They can hang it on their wall, and they can sell it. And you can get your commission, or actually the gallery gets the commission and you get the sale of the painting, and Universal can't touch you because it's a piece of fine art, and there's one. It's not mass produced, it's just one piece, it's one painting. Now you turn around and you say, okay, wow, I had no idea that my Bela Lugosi my painting was going to do so well, and now I want to make prints of it. Then you have a problem because then you're going into mass production, and now you by all rights, need to license it from the company. So I know a lot of people are going to say, but wait a minute, I've seen a lot of people who do things like this, and you would be correct. Legally, it is not right to do, but what this is this is gambling, folks. Let's be gambling, because let's face it, and we'll talk more about this in week 2, and Chris, you have to remind me to talk about this. But I had to recently hire an entertainment attorney, and my entertainment attorney's hourly rate is $425 an hour. So $425 an hour. So let's say that you make a print of your Bela Lugosi Dracula thing, and you're selling them for $20 a piece. For Universal to send you a cease and desist letter is going to cost them well over $400. So what happens is they weigh it out and they go, wow, is this something we're really going to do or not? And what will happen is they'll tell you to stop with a cease and desist letter. They're not going to sue you and come take you and throw you in jail and all that stuff. So the truth of the matter is, and I'm not saying for you to break the law. I'm not saying for you to break the law. That's a big no-no. But you have to kind of decide whether or not you're going to gamble or not. And now we'll tell you something else too. There are a lot of people out there who remold original things and sell them as well. Again, you know, it's a dangerous business you get into, and it has to do with how many you make and how many you sell. I mean, you know, per the word of the law, it's illegal. You shouldn't do it. But do people get away with it? All the time, all the time. Which is not to say, you know, and listen, and I'm hugely guilty of it. I'll be honest with you. In the year 2000, with my good friend Alec Gillis, I made a film called Hotel Superman, and it was a parody. It was something that Alec and I had been thinking about, and he made a great Superman, and we shot a short film. And I remember I took it to Comic-Con, and I didn't sell it because I knew that you know, of course, Warner Brothers and DC Comics owned Superman, and I was lucky enough to meet Julius Schwartz, who was alive at the time and was the editor of Superman, DC Comics, and I handed him a copy of the movie, because back in them days, again, you know, dinosaurs and tar pits, it was a VHS tape. And he looked at me and he went, "Ah, you're the guy that made this movie." And I went, "Yeah." I said, "But, you know, I'm hiding behind the parody law," which is true, because if you're, you know, it's how Saturday Night Live gets away with it. They parody things. And he said, "Well," he goes, that's true, you know, thank God you didn't sell this, but you do have to understand that in your film, you're featuring a registered trademark throughout the entire film, which is the Superman logo. So even if you're hiding behind a parody law, the fact that you're using a licensed logo, you know, in the film, I'm breaking the law that way. So yes, so licensing and trademarks and things. It's why. How many times have you watched it? The loose term for it in motion picture land is called Greeking. And what that means is, you know, you'll have a, you know, let's just say, I'm going to move Arnold, okay? Because I love him, but we're going to move him over here, okay? So Arnold, you move over here. No, he's good. He's off camera. Okay. So, and this is to continue to answer your questions about licensing. It's why in motion pictures, when you see, we cut to a wide shot of the, because I want to see this water bottle. So, because, no, I don't want it close up, I want it wide so I can show you. That's why you watch most television series and you'll see water bottles and things are turned like that. Because if they do this is a licensed trademark, you know, and so they would either have to have an agreement with Arrowhead to show the water, or like we can get away with it because we're an educational situation. But if this were, you know, if this were a motion picture, you know, this would have to be turned. Or sometimes the real bad, they call it Greeking, is what they call it. You Greek an object, which means you blacken this out and you cover it. And I mean, you can see bad jobs because all of a sudden it just looks like black tape over things. You know, you'll see, you know, 3 letters of the word, you know, Fruit Loops, you know, out, and it will just say Oot Loops, you know, and it's just awful. But that's, yeah, it has to do with the legalities of it. So, but and to continue this with the licensing, just so you know, approaching, you know, again, it's your business model. Approaching, you know, Universal Studios or Warner Brothers or Sony or or Disney or DreamWorks or any of these places to get the license to do a product. Generally, it will have a lot to do with what your projected sales are and what it is that you're doing. Does that make sense? I mean, like if you're going to do T-shirts, for instance, and you do a T-shirt with, say, Chucky on it. Well, first of all, Universal's never going to give you that license because they're producing their own Chucky T-shirts. But let's just say they're going to. They know that you're going to be selling these at a price point, and that there's a good chance they'll get into retail markets and that, and the licensing agreement is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Whereas Sideshow, they know that these figures that are selling for $200-300 a piece, they're going to do a limited run. They'll do maybe 100 or 200 or whatever. Then they'll know that they're going to be making less money on their licensed product. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. I'm going to move on. Let's continue with Terminator. Do we have a Chris? I can see Chris is getting a beverage there, so we'll wait for him for 2 seconds. But to continue with Terminator 2, there were some things that we had to kind of figure out it from the outset about how we were going to bridge the gap between practical and digital effects. And I will tell you, one of the things, I think I mentioned this, I don't know if I mentioned it here or not, was you know, mixing the aluminum powder into the slime and sticking my hand in and showing Jim and then splitting my fingers apart, and it looked like, you know, my hand went from this big silver object to fingers. And it, you know, it was those kind of, and he looked at it and said, oh, it's beautiful, but it's not chrome. But it was looking and sitting down and figuring out what our place was going to be versus what ILM's place was going to be. And I'll tell you, and the Skotex too, because the Skotex did, you know, quite a lot in that film as well. Where was I going with this? Oh, I know what I was talking about. So, but you'd be surprised. It actually shocks people how much practical stuff there is in Terminator 2. Like, I don't know if you have a slide of it. Is there a picture of me sculpting a bullet hit? I remember one of the first jobs that I had on Terminator 2 was sculpting T-1000 bullet hits. And it was, I don't know, oh, that's the schnick thing. Well, I'll just describe it, we'll talk about it. If I went through my big portfolio, I'd probably have a picture of it. But there's a lot of practical effects in Terminator 2 that would otherwise be nowadays been thrown right into the visual effects world. But you have to understand that we had the T-1000 running, and all of a sudden, you know, get shot strafed with bullets, and, you know, the bullet hits would appear on his chest. Chris Calhoun, who is one of the mechanics at the department, and again, this goes back to Mr. Chris Kircher's question. Chris devised these bullet hits that were like little plants. They were mechanical bullet hits that could be triggered with radio controls. So you could trigger them and they would just blossom open. So you know, So there's a lot, and we would literally, I sculpted these bullet hits. I think Chris actually sculpted one himself too. We sculpted these big flowered open bullet hits that were then, you know, taken to a vacuum metallizing place and made to look chrome. So these, again, it was a matter of value for dollar and cost effectiveness. It was more cost effective in those days to just, you know, create these flowering, you know, foam latex bullet hits than it would be to try to track by hand, you know, all of the actual hits on an object running. Now, of course, these days with software like Mocha and After Effects, it's fairly easy to track and you know, to create those things. That's why you see a lot of digital gore these days, which is, you know, again, I'm on the fence with that. I will say Rambo 4 digital gore, yeah. Other than that, I think there's something about the fluid dynamics and seeing it on set, which are really great. Let's put up this next slide, which is the T-1000 threatening Linda Hamilton. And as you see, Jim is holding a fake arm that is made out of urethane that has been painted by Mike Spatola. We talked about Mike earlier, and vacuum metallized fingertip. And that was just augmented digitally. I mean, the actual urethane hand came into frame, and then ILM took the fingertip and stretched it. And that's, again, a great, you having audio problems again? No? Okay, good. It was just another beautiful cooperation between, you know, visual and practical effects. So, and then you can see Linda already has the second half of the spike through her right there. This slide that we're looking at now, this is, there's Stan, obviously there on the left, and I think there's Shane Mahan between Jim Cameron and that's Jeff Dawn, who is Arnold Schwarzenegger's personal makeup artist. And they're preparing the famous endoskeleton reveal when Arnold takes the knife and cuts into his arm, which was a bleeding knife, and then strips the skin, which I believe at the time was a urethane skin arm, to a skin flex to reveal the mechanism underneath that was built by several mechanics, one of which was Charles Letges, as I recall. And that was a fake arm rig that Arnold wore for that particular shot, and puppeteered by Stan Winston crew. Speaking of puppeteering, look, there's Arnold's puppet there. That's one of the puppets for the scene where they're walking down the hall and is being shot to pieces. Again, it was to help establish the damage that would be done further on when he was wearing the prosthetic makeups. And you know, this was something that went all the way back to the first Terminator picture, where Stan had really wanted to translate the movement of the performer directly to the puppet. So there was a boom arm. You see look at the massive cables coming out of the bottom of that puppet. Holy mackerel. That massive cables that operated the head and everything else, it's amazing. And it went down a boom arm that I want to say, I remember Mike Tersick, because he was a big guy, Mike's a big guy, was puppeteering a lot of the gross body movements. And then the other puppeteers were chasing along with backpacks that would do some of the other functions. So that's, what else do we have there? Is that out? Is that all we have for Terminator 2? Oh, okay, we're gonna move on to something else in 2 seconds. I said something else. This is another little treat for you. We'll talk about that first. But let's kind of wrap up a little bit here with Terminator 2. So Terminator 2 is a great example of, there's some things I need to tell you now, so that when we talk about them over the next 3 Saturdays, you kind of have this in the back of your head. There was so much to do, there was so much to build in Terminator 2 that there was just no way with the prep time that they gave us that we would be ready to shoot every single effect when they started rolling camera. So what happened is that the talent pool at Stan Winston's was divided. So we built all of the effects according to where they fell within the shooting schedule. So the ones that we knew had to shoot first were the ones that were built first, while the ones that we knew would come later in the schedule, because we had an awfully long shoot schedule for that, we knew that we would use that time that production was shooting to continue building the effects until we ended up at the end of the schedule with the last effects that we shot, which included the ash bodies and the famous Hasta La Vista baby dummy. But it's really important to sit down with production, the first assistant director, the producers, the director, and figure out where things are going to fall within the schedule, and bid and schedule your build accordingly. Because if, again, you're taking your money that they give you for this and you're spreading it out over X amount of weeks during the shoot. So if you have to keep your shop going while you have a crew on set, that's something that you have to consider, you know, and that's exactly what happened. John Rosengrant, Shane Mahan, I'm going to say Richard Landon, I mean, they all went to set at the beginning of the shoot, and I remained in the shop, running the shop. So while they were filming, and I'll never forget, I mean, it was this kind of weird cooperation between John Rosengrant and I. John would call me from set and say, where are we with, you know, what do you call them, this crazy crowbar arms? And I would say, okay, well, they're here, we have this left to do on them, it'll take this much time, and you'll have them by this time, and he'd say, great. And so then a runner would come and pick them up and take them to set. And then, you know, at the same time, other things were being brought back to shop, and it was this continuous rotation. So, but it's that strategizing which helped that entire project run without a hitch from beginning to end. And it's a challenge, and we were breaking new ground with effects that no one had ever seen before, and it was exciting. Now I brought some other slides with you just to kind of show you something. Don't put it up yet. Oh, no. We don't. Oh, you blew it. And that is knowing that it doesn't matter how big your shop is. Sometimes what is good is being resourceful. And this goes back to, happened on Men in Black 3. And gosh, I hope Rick doesn't mind that I'm showing you these, because that's really funny. But Men in Black 3, which I'm sure most of you have seen, takes a large portion of the film takes place in 1969. And so Rick really wanted to do kind of, well, the whole production wanted these kind of retro alien looks. It's like a whole retro look. So Rick had bought a bunch of these big plastic like dome globes, and he walked up to me one day and just said, "Can't you just make a space helmet out of a 5-gallon plastic bucket?" And I looked at him and I went, "Sure." So now you can show the slide. So what this is this is a helmet that we built for Men in Black 3. It was myself, Brian Morishita, and Jürgen Henneman, and Art Sakamoto. We built this, and if you look at where the dome is meeting that frame, that's a 5-gallon bucket. That's exactly what that is. That is a 5-gallon bucket that was just cut and painted. And I built a little interface, kind of a brass interface that would lock the helmet into the plastic bucket. And then Jürgen made the radar dish that's on top of it, and it actually spins around. Why don't you show from the side now? Can you show it from the side? Okay. So you see the yellow tank in the back? That is a plastic, what do you call them? Like a supplement can, you know, those cans you get from the, like a GNC or something that has like protein powder in it. That's exactly what that is, with 2 vacuum form pieces on the top and the bottom. And the actual valve piece is just PVC with, I want to say that's a plastic cap, you know, jar to a cap. Excuse me, cap to a jar, excuse me. And just painted silver. And in the background you can kind of see there's a robot monster helmet that Art was making for Men in Black. But that's what I'm saying, it's being resourceful. I mean, you know, this, if we had sculpted this and molded this and you know, built it all from, you know, putting fiberglass into silicone molds, it would have been hugely expensive. But instead, Rick just said, be resourceful. Use stuff we have lying around the shop and make something. And what we ended up with was, go ahead and show the last slide, was this really cool, you know, retro 50s-esque, let me show the last one. Sorry, guys. Uh-oh. Live broadcasting. I love it. I'm going to show the last one here. Coming. There we go. Look at that. Looks like he's right out of a 1950s, you know, spaceman thing. So literally, most of what you see there was literally fabricated. I can't speak for the actual costume, but the pieces that we built at Rick's were like 100% fabricated. We built a couple of vacuum form pieces, wood bucks, but there was no real molding involved past that. So again, I want to show you an example of a big studio like Rick Baker's being resourceful and using found objects to make something really, really effective, you know, on a budget. And I think there's a perfect example of it right there. So, do you have any more else slides? Or is that it? What you got there? I think that's it. There's from the side. Look at that. I wanted to stencil on the side of that yellow thing 5GAL, because it was a 5-gallon bucket, but they said no. So, okay, I have one more thing to talk about before we wrap it up, because we're getting close to the 11 o'clock hour here. This is something that I need to talk to you about paperwork. And the best way to do it is just to illustrate with this job. One of the things that after Men in Black 3 ended, there was some publicity stuff that had to be done. So I was asked to fly to Boston and bring an alien creature arm with me for an ad campaign. So I sent in, and I'm telling you this because this is just, I just want you to understand how this all works, because it's business, folks. It's business. So they said, hey, we want Shannon to come out and do this, blah, blah, blah. Great. So I sent them a deal memo. Now, my deal memo, I had myself personally authored based on other deal memos that I had for other pictures. So that's the other thing, too, is you always keep a record of all your contracts and all that stuff, because you want to refer back to them. So I was able to put together a pretty good deal memo, and I sent it to them, and they turned around and they said, no, we're not going to honor your deal memo. So I didn't know what to do, and I'll be honest, because I really wanted to do this job for Rick Baker. You know, I love Rick, and I certainly wanted to do this. And at the same time, they basically said no. So I made the decision to just play it their way. So I didn't go with a signed deal memo. You can show the slides now. I ended up doing the job. It was a great job. It was this these creature gloves, and there they are. I'm not going to tell you the company they're for, but you can kind of guess. You can kind of guess who it was. But the thing is that the bottom line is, I didn't get paid for 90 days. And 90 days, folks, no payment. So, but I didn't do it for them. I did that for Rick. Had Rick not been involved and had he not been my friend, I probably would have told them that I wasn't going to get on a plane without them signing a deal memo. So that's something else too, is weighing out, when to stick by your guns and say, to hell with you, I'm not going to do this, or when to, say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take the hit. It's good for whatever. And in my case, my friendship and my relationship with Rick Baker was more important than the, whatever money I made for doing that job. I took the hit. It hurt. Not being paid for 90 days hurts, but it's part of the job. I weighed the choices, and I made the choice that served me the best. So, I see Chris loitering around here. Yes,
yeah, we're getting to the point where we're going to have to wrap up the free preview.
Okay, I think I have 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions for
please.
you.
Let's go.
Hold on, let me take a look.
Can I tell you,
Let's see. FX Mike 1138 would like to know how long you were with K&B.
I was with K&B. My career is very strange because I move a lot, run a lot from different shops. But I started K&B, the first job that I was with them, where I was with them for a while. Gosh, I don't know what was first. It was either, I want to say it was Hercules and Xena, I think. Well, actually, Dances with Wolves was '89, so I think I did Dances with Wolves with them. They offered me that job because they were working on several other projects. So I think Dances was the first, and that was '89. And then from there, I went back to Stan Winston's, and then went back to them after Jurassic Park on the Hercules and Xena shows. But I was with them for a long time. I think I was there. I think I took a break. I went to North Carolina for a little while, right between Dusk Till Dawn and Green Mile, but then I came back from the Green Mile and stayed till Kill Bill. Then from there I went to work on Team America, and then came back to them again and worked there till the first season of Walking Dead. So I was there for quite some time. So.
And Mike would also like to know what else you have produced.
What else have I produced? Okay, so I produced Scream at the Devil, which we talked about. I've another project coming up that I can tell you the title. The title is called Mr. BB, and something that Joseph Stutcher and I are going to do next. There's a couple of other things on the fire. There's a film that I'm very excited about called Black Leather Souls. I think I mentioned this before, which is not a genre picture. It's a straight drama, and we're hoping to get funding and move forward with that. And there's a really great fun superhero movie called Heroics, written by and hopefully directed by a very talented director named Brian Coyne. So and then there was another film in there which I will. Which I don't know if I can legally talk about it. Honestly, I had to hire an attorney, and I'm in the middle of releasing myself from it. But I will, let's just say it was an action-adventure film. It was very modestly budgeted, and I won't give you the particulars. I don't even know if it's completed or if it will be completed. It was an interesting, my first year producing was very, very interesting because I had a really great experience and a not so great experience, and you learn from both. You really do. And now also on top of that, I produced my whole Phantom Harbor series, which we'll see. Its future's uncertain at this point. But if you want to see some of it, it's www.phantomharbor.com. It's a little spook show that I've done, and a lot of practical effects, some 2D effects, but pretty much a very small group of very talented people that wanted to have a great time. So there's that. And then there was a couple of short films I produced and directed. Hotel Superman, which I mentioned in 2000. There was another film that Alec Gillis, my wife Tracy, and I made called Blind Passion, which I don't know if is on television, on YouTube or anything. But that's a whole other. That's not a genre picture, although there were some interesting makeups in it. And so several projects. But this is new to me. This is just the same way that a lot of you are breaking into makeup effects, I'm breaking into producing. So good luck to all of us. Yes, Chris.
And you have received this question a bunch of times.
Uh-oh.
Are you working on the new Jurassic Park?
Am I working on the new Jurassic Park? I've not been invited to work on the new Jurassic Park. I have? Who invited me? To do what? What am I doing? You know, I'll be honest with you. The new Jurassic Park is so shrouded in secrecy. I really don't even know that much about it, other than I know where it's shooting. But you know, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say that.
So
but
it's so shrouded in secrecy, perhaps you can't tell us.
I won't reveal. No. Right now, I am not scheduled to work on Jurassic Park 4. I was really happy to be part of the first Jurassic Park, and I think that the work that Stay and Winston's did, it was kind of sad. I don't know about you guys, but I was really sad when the Spinosaurus killed the T-Rex. I mean, I get it. I know what it was. I know they were trying to show something that was, you know, so badass that it would just, you know, rip that T-Rex apart. But that, you know, one day, when we all have some time, we'll sit and talk about Jurassic Park. It is a tremendous story, the making of Jurassic Park, and what we were able to accomplish on that film was groundbreaking. It was amazing, and I mean, I'm a big fan of the series. I love the dinosaurs, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see Jurassic Park 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in.
Absolutely.
So.
I think that pretty much wraps up
seconds.
our questions.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. The question that I keep getting is I'll just step on. Oh, look how awful I look.
I know.
Hi everyone, I look really awful.
You got the logo.
The question I keep getting is this going to be available on DVD after the class? Yes, but we don't know when.
And again, one of the things, and I've gotten this from people on, you know, who have Facebook friended me, who have said, hey, this looks really valuable, I really want to do it, but I'm working that day and I won't be able to do that. And we understand. I mean, unfortunately, for those of you who can participate, it's the interaction. I mean, you heard Chris asking me questions. You're going to be able to interact. We'll be able to talk. Portfolio, we'll have the portfolio reviews. We're going to be looking at your bids. We're going to be looking at this. I mean, we're going to really, and you know, I'm going to do my best to be as objective and as realistic as I can in meeting your expectations of what it would be like to be submitting something to a producer who's going to read it and just say, hey, this is what I want, you know, and because ultimately that's the goal, right? I mean, we've said this a million times, we're not fine artists, we're commercial artists, and a big part of being a commercial artist is pleasing a client, right? So,
absolutely. And
in this case, I'll be the client. It'd be very exciting.
And we would absolutely love to see every single one of you in class.
It's Saturday morning.
And if you are really waiting for if you're really waiting for the DVD, if you pay for the watch and chat, it will be unedited in HD quality, just like it is now, for the rest of your life.
The rest of your life. Yes, but the other thing too is, and remember, because we talked about this from the very outset, is that the nature of the business has changed. So who knows? Maybe in the next couple of years we'll be back here doing the new Making Monsters business.
And you'll be able to look back on that one and go, what awful advice.
Yeah, I wish I had never done that. You know, and I will say one thing too, because Matt. When Matt and I talked about this, we're going to stress this again and again, and we're going to keep stressing this, is that I am not a CPA, I am not an attorney, I am not an agent, I am not a manager, I'm none of those things, and we are going to recommend, as I recommend, that you hire these people. And one last thing, because I know we have seconds here, is that it is tax time, folks. So make sure that I can't emphasize this enough, I am not being paid by any tax service at all. Don't do your own taxes if you are a working professional. Please do not do your own taxes. These people, these accountants, they are trained to look at how you've spent your money and to know where you can deduct and get the most refund as you can. And even if you're doing all 1099 work, it's their job to reduce the amount of profit that you've made with 1099, and we'll talk about this in the first week. And, but please go see an accountant.
You know, and the thing is after your disclaimer, we do have to put up though that you are a legendary effects supervisor and producer.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, Matt called me from the set of Harbinger Down, and unfortunately, they're not able to connect there. He said sometime within the next couple of weeks, we're going to do a broadcast on YouTube for everyone, so you can get a behind the scenes of Harbinger Down. And that's that's pretty much it.
Which I have to say, and this is some insider information. I asked Matt last week when I saw him on set if he was going to be here, and he said, "No, they're killing me on Tuesday." And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a big effects day.
Yeah.
So how are you going to be live here if they're killing you on that day? So.
Well, we can actually do it. They're just having some internet problems there.
Got it.
Right.
So
So
anyway.
that's pretty much it. I'm going to step out. I'm going to let Shannon take himself out.
Yeah, keyboard cat, play me out. We should have the keyboard cat playing me out. Anyway, again, I'm Shannon Shea with Stay in Winston School of Character Arts. It's a live webinar, three Saturdays from 9 till 1, this coming Saturday, February the 8th. Pacific Standard Time, don't forget, 9 in the morning Pacific Standard Time, so if you're on the East Coast, it'll be a little later in the day. So it's the 8th, the 15th, and March 1st, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody, looking forward to seeing your work, I'm looking forward to, listen, I know it seems a little daunting, but we're going to have a good time, and I'll try to get you through this as best I can, and so keep those questions coming in, keep watching the videos and commenting, like I say, good luck to us all, and I'll see you next Saturday, okay? Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me here. I'm going to take another sip from my Jurassic Park cup.